Padanti कृतं स्मरेतेन विघ्नप्रणश्यन्ति सिद्धन्तिच्चामनोरथान् लक्ष्मीतनोतु नितरामितरानपेक्षम् अङ्घ्रिद्वयं निगमशाकिशिखाप्रवालं हैरम्बमम्बुरुहडम्बरचौर्यनिग्रं विघ्नाद्रिभेदशतधारधुरन्धरण्डः सर्वेषां स्वागतम्. This is the Saṃskāra session for the 49th shloka. So we are discussing the nature of the Brahman, because the shlokas are, I know this shloka we already started with the Omkara, but here understanding the nature of creation and why we have evolved to the deification denotion of that creation, we are trying to understand. So we are trying to understand the Trimurti here. We talked about Brahma and Vishnu in the previous. We'll talk about Rudra. So why Rudra? Why not Shiva? Shiva actually is not just the form that we see, the man with the snake in his neck and this thing. That is not the only Shiva. Shiva has a different meaning. Uh, Actually, Rudra is what mentioned in the Vedas. Uh, so here what mistake that we usually make is, yes, Shiva is associated most closely with the destruction part of it, but Shiva as a word, it means something auspicious, something very compassionate, pure, something that grants moksha, like that. So he is not mentioned in the Vedas as Shiva, but a destructive force is mentioned as Rudra. We closely, that is, he is called one of the 11 Rudras. So he is one of them. Maybe there was one Shiva that we all look closely to, and therefore we draw much more inspiration from him. That is fine. But he's one of the 11 Rudras, so understanding him is also very important. So the concept of Rudra, we have to understand. Let us keep Rudra separately for now and then Shiva separately for now. Rudra we will try to understand, and Shiva will always remain the one we worship. That's all. So at this point of time, trying to understand Rudra in as a evolution of the creative force of Brahman. So, Rudra, as we all know, is mostly associated with the destruction of the universe. He is termed as the um, destroyer of the universe, and he is often said to be in a state, in a very calm state, and he has that Trinetra. He is also called as Trinetra, that third eye, which has the uh, pralaya, Agni pralaya Shakti to destroy the whole universe, like that. That is the depictive form of Shiva. While Rudra, then the word Rudra is actually from Rud. Rud means to cry, Rodana. There is a roaring effect, roar, like that. Roraviti, and there is also one more shloka. So that scream, that screech. What is the meaning of this? Is that when we talk about we have already talking about how sound is said to be the initiation of this universe. That is, the sound waves is what has said to the manipulation of that matter, and that is the one who is transporting the energy, and therefore they are the ones who are leading to the creation. So, in that sense, what happens? There is a certain wavelength of that sound that can destroy also. If a certain sound is able to create, certain sound is able to destroy also. Like for example, uh, I think I had already mentioned something, a film called as Dialect of Incident. So there was something called as a dialect of past incident, which was very It was an experiment gone wrong kind of a thing, where some hikers um, started dying mysteriously in the Ural Mountains of Russia. And this experiences was trying to, they were trying to understand what went to, what happened, etc., etc. So where it was actually, they all passed away in a very gory incident, etc., etc. The reason was, they were exposed to certain wavelengths. Um, it, this may not be. Hmm, that was not it. Some other. No, I'm not sure about this thing, but. All right. So moving forward with the, I mean, we don't want to take the example of some other and then try to misquote. I'll try to regain this later on. We were talking about Rudra. Rudra, to roar, it was saying. So there are incidents and stories of experimentation where sound waves, when certain matter is exposed to certain level of sound waves at different frequencies, they start to behave in a different way. Some of them start to fuse up, some of them start to disperse, some of them start to, but there is a wavelength, there can be a wavelength, there can reach that particular level of sound which can lead to destructions. It means they will start destroying themselves, not themselves, as they'll start to, start to unfuse themselves, like that. So when atoms start, we know that paramanu with paramanu leads to the fusing of atoms. When the fusing happens, Dvenuka, Trinuka, etc., etc., there is one akara built and it reaches Mahatva. Anutva is when it is micro. Mahatva is when it can be subjected to human perceptions of gunas. That means akara, rasa, gandha, etc., etc., etc. So that coming together of atoms is what bringing molecules, and then more coming together is what is leading to this buildup. It is becoming macro in nature. That means we can associate it with all the kind of gunas that we can understand. So if it is exposed to certain levels of sound, then that sound will also start tearing everything apart. So because we have initiated everything from sound, that is the Pranavavada, then Rudra is also that level of that exposure to sound where the whole universe will start to disintegrate. That means whatever universe we know, that will start to disintegrate. It will start coming into that form of that primordial matter which existed before the universe was formed. This is that energy. That is Rudra. That is the reason Rudra is always shown at a dancing pose, because at that exposure of what we call a sound, we are experiencing the movement of atomic particles, or not atomic, the paramanu, or that particles, what we are experiencing is, it is very destructive in nature. It will start destroying itself. It will start destroying the universe. That is Rudra. Raudra, something horrifying. That noise itself is so horrifying. We've seen where there is a certain kind of sounds that irritate it so much that we just want to. That is the nature of the sound. That is the reason nobody wants to go towards that. So even when we are talking about the deity, Rudra is not um, celebrated much, but it is Rudra which leads to end of a certain uh, creation, and he is also the facilitator for the next creation. So with an end only, there is a new beginning. But unfortunately, we usually see this as, when we say cyclical, we try to see it like this. But when we are seeing cyclical, it is actually like this. So in this sense, what happens is, this way, we are seeing over here, when there is destruction, this is Rudra. This is that level of sound, the amplification of sound has reached everywhere, where everything has starting to disintegrate, and it has come down to its particle levels, the Paramanu Rupas. And then after the whole creation has disintegrated to that level where existence is not there, it reaches a state, let us say that is state zero. From this state onwards, you know, when it, we've seen how when there's a bomb, when we see in movies, what happens? There's a bomb explosion, everything starts to come together after some time, and then it starts to blow up. So this is that state zero where it creates a void and everything gets sucked in and everything goes close, close, close. And when it goes too close together, the overbearing external forces will make the internal force explode. And that becomes Brahma, the expansion force. This initial expansion force will then lead to creation. This is the creation phase. This is the creation force. And across this, we are not the only creation. At every level of creation, there are different types of existence. So therefore, there can be, maybe we can say this is yakshas, then this is gandharvas, then there is something else, maybe daityas, maybe something else, like that. Then we reach manavas, and maybe after this there are some other phases also. We are not sure about it. There are some other phases like this, here, 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 here. Then we reach a state, the primordial forces, so they reach a phase, they reach that particular phase where the again what happens is they have gone too far away, and that amplification of this sound, that energy, that initially that gunj, after that explosion happened, that has grown so much that again it starts to it reaches a stage where it also starts to disintegrate whatever has been created. This whole thing, it starts to disintegrate, and then they start again to come down to the particle state. Then what we happen is, again we will see that state zero, and then again we will start again seeing the creation. Now, the problem is we are only able to see from here because we are over here. Our creation is somewhere over here. So what we are doing is we are only able to reduce ourselves, or we are able to see back only up to this state zero, which we call as Big Bang. Before Big Bang, what was there? We have no idea of understanding, because the forces before that, we don't know what they were, and it is not up to our what is that, comprehension also. So that is what is happening over there. So this is what is the nature of the creation, and that we are trying to understand it through these three concepts of Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra. And here the Rudra becomes very important because he is the one who is facilitating this transfer from one end of one existence to another existence. He is the one who is uh, facilitating that creative change. And that is the reason we are celebrating him also. That is also extremely important. So here, when we look at the Lokarudi, obviously Brahma is not celebrated much because we associate. There is a story about that also. Bhrigu Maharshi gave him that shapa and all that, but that needs to be clearly understood in terms of our mindset of our ancestors rather than just stories. We need to understand it through explanations, logical explanations, if not scientific, at least logical. So Rudra also is not celebrated in his manifested form because at that point of time, what happens is we are not understanding him. Uh, we cannot understand him through a form because he's in a certain wavelength of that sound which is beyond form because it is destroying forms. The point of the that particular rodana, that level of wavelength of sound, is that it is destroying forms. So how can he himself be shown in a form? But it is shown in pictures. That is the artistic depiction. But we will see that he is not in the form. Shiva, yes, he is depicted in form because he may have had physical presence. This we are trying to Rudra, we are trying to understand it only as a evolution of creative energy. That is the primordial structure of the universe and how it is evolving. We are trying to understand. Shiva, yes, he may have had the existence in that physical form that I'm not sure about and I don't know about that. Also, that is up to the Shaivas to give what the nature of this thing is. So he's one of the Rudras, is what can be understood. So this manifested form, we are not talking about only the pure, we are talking about only the evolution of that nature of creation, because in the further shlokas, we will be focusing more on that level of samadhi, that is the level of total absorption, where our mind, where our conscious needs to give itself to the creative forces. So we need to understand what creative forces are. So therefore, we tend to understand these three creative forces as the Trimurtis are the primordial functions of the creation, and that is the initially we don't know Murta. You don't have any manifestations. These are the only three depiction of manifestations because they are doing some functions. They are not coming into forms. They are doing something that we can understand. That is the reason these three we are trying to understand. These are coming together, they put together one creation. That is the most important thing. So, what is the nature of our existence? It has these three elements. It has to have these three elements because these three are the one who is giving rise to creation itself. So, with that, we conclude this concept of Trimurtis. Um, स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः प्रतिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीमहीषा गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि।